Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Benjamin Chong Alfares with a top report from the global economy. Today's show, Alstom considers GE bid, and Pakistani desert offers promise. First, the headlines. To begin in France, where Alstom approved plans to start official talks with General Electric over the sale of its power equipment division. Alstom's board unanimously accepted the strategic and industrial merits of the $17 billion offer, giving GE a lead over its German rival Siemens. But Alstom retains the option to examine other offers for its energy assets, which generate more than 70% of sales. And Siemens, which views GE as a competitive threat, has said it is willing to match the financial terms of GE's offer. Indians voted in a crucial stage of the 9th-phase general election to decide the fate of opposition party leader Narendra Modi and chief of the ruling coalition Sonia Gandhi. A total of 89 constituencies in 7 Indian states and 2 union territories are set for polls in the 7th phase of the general election. The election so far showed BJP leader Narendra Modi, known for his business-friendly administration, in the lead. Public opinion polls give the ruling Congress Party little chance, owing to public anger over the economic slowdown, high inflation, and a string of corruption scandals. But Indian elections are notoriously hard to call due to the country's diverse electorate and parliamentary system, and the voting process continues until May 12th.
Today is an important and special day, and therefore, to seek blessing is part of our tradition. I would like to urge people to come out in large numbers and cast their vote.
Daimler, the world's third largest maker of luxury vehicles, reported a 95% surge in first quarter profit. Earnings before interest and taxes rose to 1.79 billion euros from 917 million euros a year earlier. Earnings were supported by volume growth in cars and higher average prices. First quarter Mercedes deliveries jumped 15% to 374,000 vehicles, outpacing Bayerische Motorenwerke and Volkswagen. Israeli families with young children are crushed by financial burden and receive little government support compared to parents in other OECD countries. A study by the Bank of Israel found that cash benefits for young working families, such as tax credits or child allowances, are markedly lower than their level in almost all other OECD nations. The study also showed that services provided to families with children, such as tax deductions for child expenses, were generally lower as well. Most advanced economies assist young working families through tax benefits, child allowances, subsidized services, and other benefits. When the rumor got out last week that General Electric had bid $13 billion for French engineering group Alstom, it caused an uproar. Alstom is coveted by the French government, which can intervene to protect companies deemed to be of national importance from being acquired. The maker of power equipment and high-speed TGV trains built France's power grid and the generators that produce most of the nation's electricity. But for now, it seems almost certain GE will win this battle. Here's more from Joanne Citruk and Daniel Roth.
The power turbine and train manufacturing company Alstom is perhaps the jewel of French industry, but it is now likely that much of that honor will be transferred to foreign hands. The Alstom board is now in the review process for a nearly $14 billion bid by American company General Electric to purchase Alstom's energy division, which is responsible for about $20 billion in business and employs 65,000. A GE deal would leave German giant Siemens, GE's largest competitor and a more similar company to Alstom, in the dust with their proposal for an alternative deal, which would transfer a significant part of its rail division in an asset swap. Siemens is down but not out of the race, as the review committee is free to receive unsolicited offers.
We have arranged the possibility for France and for Alstom to give itself the choice. The choice is that we don't have just one solution but many, and that these solutions ground, taking into account the national industrial interests of the country.
Earlier this week, top reps from the 2 foreign companies sat down with French authorities. The French economy minister seemed to favor the Siemens option, which in his eyes would have granted the possibility of building 2 European giants, one in energy, the other in transportation. But either deal seems unconvincing for the opposition.
The Airbus deal was done on an equal footing with the Germans. We didn't do it from such a weak position. Indeed, there is more ambition in our country. This is very serious. If the finance minister allows this purchase by either of the companies, he will have betrayed what he said 2 years ago.
The Made in France image is at stake in the deal, but Alstom is in a tough place as the share price fell 30% in the year to March. It's a difficult situation, just like the overall reality of French industry.
Alstom aujourd'hui, comme plein d'autres entreprises,
Alstom today, like many other companies today, lacks capital. That's the decline of France in that domain, and sadly, if there isn't a political will to direct savings towards the capital of businesses so they have healthy funds, invest and create jobs, industrial France and France's service sector of tomorrow will have a lot of problems.
la France des services de demain aura beaucoup de problèmes.
Of Alstom's over 90,000 workers, the company employs 18,000 people in France, while GE employs 10,000 and Siemens employs 7,000. Alstom workers warned of major layoffs if a deal were to be done with Siemens, considering the major overlap between the two. Whether a GE deal will save jobs is as of yet unknown, as the details of a deal unfold.
We're joined now by financial analyst Lionel Friedman for a discussion on Alstom. Lionel, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Benjamin.
So is this really more so a political issue, the fact that GE is an American company moving into France?
It is very much a political issue. The largest industrial company, Alstom, they don't want the flagship of French industry coming into the American flagship.
Right.
But GE is doing it properly. They send their CEO to France to meet the president, and GE is used to do business in France because they already 40 years ago, made a joint venture, one of the largest aircraft industry French company called Safran, and today they have the largest manufacturing of engine for jets. So GE knows to do business in France, and they already bought in the past the turbine business of Alstom.
Okay, but this is essentially threatening directly the French industry, is it?
It is, but Alstom management wants to do the deal with GE, which is a $13 billion deal. GE proposed $16 billion deal. Now they increased the offer because the French government, had question about the deal. The French government, the first reaction was to say we're going to be careful about employment, about decision-making center, transfer of technology. And what they did last weekend, they ran into not trouble. They came to see their partner in Germany and asked Siemens to make a counteroffer to increase the pressure.
Which in a way makes less sense, no? Because essentially if Siemens goes in, there's a lot of overlap, which would mean a lot of jobs being cut. Is that not true?
What Siemens is proposing, Siemens is very strong into the transportation. So they're going to have the metro and the railway given to Alstom, which is like 20% of the activity of Alstom, and the 80% activity of Alstom, which is the energy. They're going to have a swap of assets, and they're making valuation of 40 billion euro. But General Electric only wants to buy the energy component of Alstom, which is 80% of the company, approximately 25 billion of sales. So they're not interested into the transportation of Alstom.
I see, but is it at all clear what the workers feel in this respect?
I think they're very pragmatic. GE is a huge conglomerate. They have activities into consumer goods, energy, transport. The valuation of GE is $250 billion, which is huge. Okay, so GE has a financial strength to help Alstom to make deal abroad, to export the product, the know-how, all the electric power plant that they're manufacturing. Mm-hmm. If you do a deal with Siemens, it's a European deal, but it's kind of a last-minute deal, which is not prepared. Forcing two companies to merge together. And the other side, GE, it was a long-term plan that they already, we assume, had an agreement with the management of Alstom.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Lionel, for joining us. Moving in now to Pakistan, where 4,000 hectares of barren land could be the answer to the country's energy crisis as construction gets underway for one of the world's biggest solar power plants. Here's the story.
There is nothing here but sand and cracked, scorched earth. And yet, Raja Waqar has spent $10 million for a parcel of this barren land. Why? Because before long, this area will be a sea of solar panels, and within 2 years, he expects to break even.
But in our country, we have a lot of sunshine. Here, we have long days of sun. It's cheap, and that's why a lot of people like me believe in it.
The government in Pakistan's Punjab province has decided to turn the Cholistan Desert over to solar energy. Panels covering these 4,000 hectares of sand could one day churn out 1,000 megawatts of power, about the equivalent of the average nuclear power station.
When you visit here in 1 year, a year and a half, you'll see a different world. We will bring this desert to life. There will be buildings over here. For supervision, houses will be built.
Pakistan is going through one of the worst energy crises of its history, with constant blackouts in the summer. The Cholistan Desert could be the best alternative for power, but it's not that simple. The area isn't completely empty. Nomads have been raising their camels here for generations.
We don't know what this work is, whether it's a good or a bad thing. We only know that animals are our only income and that we depend on them. Solar power, what does it mean? We don't know.
Either way, the nomads will just have to wait and see how it affects them, as the first phase of the project is due to be completed by the end of this year.
And now for a look at some other stories, some eyebrow-raising stories we do not want you to miss out on in Media Watch with Daniel Roth. So Daniel.
How's it going?
Good. So I understand we're talking about the shekel?
Well, so today Forbes online had this report from someone named Jesse Colombo, who's a bubble chaser, if you will. He's a guy who goes out and looks for the bubbles that are about to burst.
Okay.
So he writes a lot about the emerging market bubbles, and he today published a piece that is the talk of Israel right now, saying that essentially what seems like a strong economy here in Israel is actually just a bubble waiting to burst. That if you look at housing, the housing market is hugely inflated.
Sure.
Mortgage debt is up 80% from 2007 to 2012, and just rising. The prices are going up and incomes aren't matching. And we saw in 2011 what happened. It's also saying things like the gas fields that we've been talking about on this show aren't actually worth that much. If you look at them, it's worth 0.76% of GDP. Not a big deal. It's a drop in the bucket, he says, of the Israeli economy. Talking about tech also, that Israel has sold about $14 billion worth of startups recently, and to companies like Google and Apple, and that basically when you look at Facebook buying something for $19 billion, it's not actually
that impressive at the end of the day.
Right. So he's saying basically we're looking at across the board, all of the things you point to in Israel that are strong are actually empty and about to burst.
Ooh, that's a nice doomsayer's message there.
Right.
A little sobering.
Now,
scary.
Important to take it with a grain of salt, obviously, because he has an economic perspective. He's a guy out looking for bubbles, so he'll find them. That's, sort of.
What is his track record so far?
This is a great question. It's I'm not sure, but it's he also has a political outlook on things. He very much takes a libertarian view, which kind of marks the way he talks.
Doesn't he claim that he saw he sort of forecasted 2007 crisis?
Yeah, and lots of people do, and he may have. A lot of people claim they do, and some did, and some didn't.
It's always easier in hindsight. Huh?
Right, it's always easier in hindsight. There are definitely cases of people. It's not that it's impossible to view, to see when a bubble's coming. It's just you have to be looking, and this guy is looking, so it's worth kind of taking note, saying, are these industries that Israel's pointing to as the bedrock of the economic success,
are they
really bedrock?
Bedrock. Good. Okay. Well, Israelis definitely make too little money, and prices, especially in real estate, are definitely too high. So on that note, let's see. What else do we have here?
So CEOs. We have a couple of reports on this from Quartz. They're talking about actually single, unmarried CEOs do better by and large because they're bigger risk takers. So that's on one side. The good news for CEOs is you know who to look for. If you're looking for a risk-taking, like progress-minded company, then look for a single CEO.
Are these really the only reasons they mentioned for unmarried CEOs doing better?
maybe there's more. Maybe you get to go home, kick your feet up, watch TV. Who knows? But this was one of the main
You're
reasons.
clearly not married. It's okay, Daniel.
This is yes. But the other half of it is in California. 30 years ago, CEOs made about 40 times the average worker.
Right.
Nowadays, they make up to, in some of the elite companies, 350 times the average worker. So you're talking about huge increase. Now some lawmakers in California are trying to limit that by saying if you go over 100 times, then you're going to have to pay more taxes.
Well, and rightfully so, I'd say, no?
Yeah, it seems like it's reasonable. If you're making that much more than the average worker, then you've got a little to spare to put into the system.
Okay, well, on that note, we're going to have to end it here. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Benjamin Chanel-Fares. Send us your comments, and do join us again tomorrow for more Media Watch and stuff.